All right, so get ready because tonight we are diving deep into some seriously creepy clown encounters.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah, so these are actually from you guys.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you sent us 3 stories from the Mr. Nightmare YouTube channel.
Okay.
And let me tell you, these are not the kind of clowns you'd want at a kid's birthday party.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
Oh.
These are the stuff of nightmares.
Right.
We're talking about the video 3 True Clown Horror Stories.
Okay.
And we're going to try to figure out what makes these encounters so unsettling.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because, these stories tap into something kind of primal.
Right.
A fear of the unknown and the unexpected.
All right.
These figures are supposed to represent joy and laughter.
Yeah.
So when they behave in a menacing way, it creates just this really jarring dissonance.
Oh, for sure.
That's deeply disturbing.
Okay, so the first story is called The Carnival Clown.
Okay.
A 12-year-old boy goes to a mini carnival that's set up near a forest preserve. Inside a circus tent,
Right.
one of the clowns tries to lure him backstage,
That's creepy already.
but he wisely decides to stay away.
Smart kid.
Later, as he's walking home through the woods,
Oh, no.
he encounters the same clown again.
Oh, my gosh.
What do you think is the significance of that repeated appearance?
Oh, that sends chills down my spine.
Especially in such an isolated setting.
Oh, I mean, the woods, especially at night,
Yeah.
have always held a certain mystique and fear in our collective consciousness.
Right.
They represent the unknown, a place where we're vulnerable and exposed.
Yeah?
The fact that the clown appears again in the woods,
Right.
away from the safety and familiarity of the carnival, it just amplifies the sense of threat
Right.
and isolation. It's like
Okay.
the clown is deliberately choosing a setting
Oh, yeah.
that will maximize the fear factor.
It definitely adds a layer of creepiness.
Yeah.
So the boy tells the clown he's not interested and keeps walking,
Okay.
but he can't shake the feeling that he's being watched. He keeps looking back, and sure enough, he sees the clown following him.
Oh, no.
The boy ends up throwing his flashlight at the clown and running for his life.
Yeah, I would too.
He makes it home safely.
Oh, thank goodness.
But the encounter leaves him terrified of clowns for years.
I bet.
This wasn't just a fleeting scare.
No.
It had a real psychological impact.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think these kinds of encounters can be so deeply unsettling, especially for kids?
Well, I mean, you have to think about it from a child's perspective.
Right.
Children are particularly vulnerable to these kinds of fears
Right.
because their understanding of the world is still developing.
Like-
They rely on adults to
Yeah.
provide a sense of safety and security.
Yeah.
And when that's shattered by a figure like a clown who's supposed to be harmless,
Right.
but behaves in a threatening way,
Yeah.
it can be deeply traumatizing.
Right.
It can really shake their trust in the world around them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
Mm.
Okay, story number 2 is called The Silent Clown and the Bush Lurker.
Oh.
2 teenagers
Okay.
encounter a mime-like clown at a fair
All right.
who doesn't speak but just stares and smiles.
Oh, that's creepy.
Later, as they're walking home, they hear footsteps behind them,
No.
and they eventually spot the same clown hiding in the bushes outside one of their houses.
Are you kidding me?
It's like he was waiting for them.
Oh my god.
This element of pursuit
Yeah.
and lurking seems to be a recurring theme in these stories.
Right.
What do you make of that?
It's incredibly unsettling.
Yeah.
Because it suggests a level of premeditation and intent.
Right.
It's no longer just a random encounter with a creepy clown.
Yeah.
It's a deliberate act of stalking and intimidation.
Yeah.
And the fact that the clown is silent
Yeah.
adds to the creepiness.
Right,
Because
yeah.
it subverts our expectations.
Yeah.
Clowns are supposed to be loud and boisterous.
Right.
So this silent, lurking figure is all the more disturbing.
It's like something out of a horror movie,
Totally.
and the silence makes it even scarier.
It does.
You keep waiting for him to make a sound to do something,
Yeah.
but he just stands there watching.
Ah.
Anyway, the teens manage to get inside the house just in time,
Oh, good.
but the clown waits outside in the driveway for 10 minutes before disappearing.
Jeez.
They have no idea if he actually left or was just hiding somewhere nearby.
Right.
Not knowing,
Yeah,
the uncertainty can be just as terrifying as the actual encounter,
absolutely.
don't you think?
The fear of the unknown is a powerful force.
Right.
Our imaginations can run wild when we're left to fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
And that can often be more terrifying than any concrete threat.
Right.
It's the classic horror movie trope. What you don't see is often scarier than what you do.
Okay, on to the third and final story, The Nose Thief.
Okay.
A 14-year-old boy finds a red clown nose on his walk to work at a lumberyard.
All right.
He thinks nothing of it and takes it to work with him.
Oh.
But on his walk home that night, he encounters a menacing clown
Oh, no.
who demands the nose back
Seriously?
and even threatens him with a machete.
Oh my gosh, that's terrifying.
The clown nose is a fascinating detail.
It is.
It acts as a lure,
Right.
a seemingly innocent object
Yeah.
that draws the victim into the encounter.
Yeah.
It's a clever narrative device
It is.
that highlights the deceptive nature of these figures. They can appear harmless one minute
Right.
and terrifying the next.
Yeah. And this encounter, it definitely takes a dark turn.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The boy runs for his life,
Okay.
and luckily a truck driver stops and helps him.
Oh, thank goodness.
But the clown vanishes without a trace.
Oh, wow.
This story seems to escalate the stakes significantly.
It does.
What do you think is the significance of the machete?
Well, I think the machete is a symbol of power and aggression.
Yeah.
It transforms the clown
Yeah.
from a figure of amusement
Right.
into a genuine threat capable of inflicting real harm. This escalation of violence is particularly disturbing because it shatters any remaining illusion of safety.
Right.
It reminds us that even figures associated with childhood and laughter
Yeah.
can be dangerous.
It's a chilling reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and we shouldn't let our guard down even in seemingly harmless situations.
Yeah, absolutely.
These 3 stories have been pretty intense.
They have.
Let's take a moment to process what we've heard so far.
Yeah.
What are your initial thoughts on these encounters?
Well, what strikes me is the consistency of certain elements.
Right.
The nighttime settings, the isolation of the victims, the clowns appearing in unexpected places, and the sense of being watched and pursued. It suggests a pattern,
Right.
a deliberate manipulation of fear, rather than just random acts of creepiness.
I agree. It's like these clowns are playing on our deepest fears,
Right.
using the darkness and isolation of the woods to their advantage. It's making me wonder, is there something inherently creepy about clowns, or is it something more complex?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And it's one we'll explore further as we delve deeper into the world of creepy clowns
Okay.
and the psychology of fear.
All right, before we go there, I want to ask you,
Sure.
what stands out to you the most about these 3 stories? What's sticking with you?
Honestly, the persistence of the clowns
Oh, yeah.
is what I find most disturbing.
Yeah.
They're not just fleeting figures who appear and disappear.
Right.
They linger, they follow, they
Yeah.
wait.
Yeah.
It's like they're toying with their victims,
Yeah.
drawing out the fear and suspense.
That's a really good point.
Thanks.
It's that element of control, that sense that the clown is always one step ahead, that makes these encounters so unsettling.
Exactly, and it's that unsettling feeling that
Yeah.
we'll unpack further as we continue our deep dive
Okay.
into the world of creepy clowns.
Awesome. You mentioned something earlier about clowns playing on our deepest fears.
Yeah.
Is there something inherently creaky about clowns, or is it a more complex cultural phenomenon?
Yeah, it's definitely more complex than just saying all clowns are creepy. Historically, clowns have occupied this strange space in our cultural psyche. You know, on one hand, they're associated with laughter and joy and childhood innocence.
Right.
But there's always been this darker side to the clown figure, a sense of mischief and unpredictability that can be unsettling.
Yeah. I can see that you think about the classic image of a clown with the exaggerated features and the painted-on smile,
Yeah.
the unpredictable behavior. It's almost like they're designed to be both appealing and a little bit disturbing at the same time.
Exactly. And that duality, that tension between the comedic and the unsettling has been explored in literature and film and popular culture for centuries. Think about the grotesque harlequins of the Renaissance, or the sinister Punch and Judy puppet shows. Those weren't exactly the happy-go-lucky clowns we see at birthday parties.
That's a good point. And in more recent times, we've seen the rise of the creepy clown trope in horror movies and urban legends. Remember the whole killer clown craze a few years back?
Oh, yeah.
People were genuinely terrified.
Right, and those pop culture representations tap into a very real fear that many people have, coulrophobia, the fear of clowns.
Coulrophobia, that's a new one for me. Why do you think clowns specifically trigger such a strong fear response in some people? I mean, there are plenty of other things to be afraid of.
Well, there are a few psychological factors at play here. One is the concept of the uncanny valley,
Right.
which we talked about earlier. It's the idea that when something looks almost human but not quite, It triggers a sense of unease or even revulsion.
So it's like our brains are trying to process something that's familiar yet disturbing at the same time.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And the exaggerated features, unnatural makeup, and forced smiles of a clown can fall into that uncanny category for many people.
I can definitely see that it's like those really realistic robots that can be kind of creepy, right?
Exactly, another factor is the element of disguise.
Okay.
The clown's makeup and costume conceal their true identity, which can create a sense of distrust or suspicion.
It's like we don't know who's behind the mask, what their true intentions are, and that uncertainty can be pretty unsettling.
Right, and then there's the element of unpredictable behavior.
Yeah.
Clowns are often portrayed as mischievous and unpredictable. We don't know what they're going to do next, whether they're going to pull a harmless prank or something more sinister.
Yeah, that unpredictability definitely adds to the anxiety, especially in the context of the stories we've been discussing. These encounters took place in the woods at night, in isolated locations. Do you think the setting plays a role in amplifying the fear factor?
Absolutely. The woods have long been associated with fear and danger in folklore and mythology. They represent the unknown, the untamed, the place where civilization ends and the wild begins.
It's like the woods are a character in these stories, adding to the sense of isolation and vulnerability.
Precisely the darkness of the woods, the rustling leaves, the unseen creatures lurking in the shadows. All of these elements create this primal sense of unease that heightens the terror of the clown encounters.
It's like our ancient fear of predators in the night is being reawakened by these modern-day bogeymen in clown costumes.
That's a very apt analogy, and it's important to remember that even though clowns are often associated with entertainment and laughter, there is a potential for danger. Just as with any stranger we encounter, these stories serve as a reminder not to let our guard down even in seemingly harmless situations.
So based on these stories and your expertise, do you think there's a real creepy clown phenomenon, or is it just a case of isolated incidents and overactive imaginations?
I think it's a combination of factors. There's the historical and cultural baggage that clowns carry, the psychological factors that make them inherently unsettling to some people, and then there's the very real possibility that some individuals exploit those fears for malicious purposes.
So it's not just about the clowns themselves, but also about the context, the setting, and the intentions of the people behind the masks.
Exactly, and that's what makes this topic so fascinating and complex. It's not a simple black and white issue.
Well, you've definitely given me a lot to think about. What should our listeners take away from these creepy clown encounters? What's the key takeaway here?
I think the most important takeaway is the importance of awareness and caution. We live in a world where appearances can be deceiving, and it's important to trust our instincts when something feels off.
That's good advice. If something feels wrong, it probably is.
Right. If you encounter someone, clown or otherwise, who makes you feel uncomfortable, it's perfectly okay to remove yourself from the situation. Your safety and well-being are paramount.
I couldn't agree more. It's always better to err on the side of caution.
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? I mean, like, something that's meant to bring joy and laughter can become such a source of fear and anxiety for so many people.
Right.
I feel like we've only scratched the surface
Yeah.
of this whole creepy clown phenomenon. Yeah. It's definitely a topic that warrants further exploration.
Right.
There's just so much to unpack. The psychology of fear, the power of cultural narratives, the ways in which our perceptions can be manipulated. It's just...
It really makes you think about, like, my whole childhood fascination with clowns.
Right.
I used to love going to the circus, but now I'm kind of wondering if I was subconsciously picking up on those unsettling vibes.
Yeah, it's possible.
Even back then.
Yeah, our brains are constantly processing information,
Right.
even on a subconscious level.
Yeah.
And sometimes those subtle cues can shape our perceptions without us even realizing it.
It's like those optical illusions.
Yeah.
Where you see one thing, but then your brain flicks it.
Totally.
You see something completely different.
Right.
Maybe our perception of clowns works in a similar way.
Yeah.
The happy clown image is there. But there's also this darker, unsettling image.
Right.
Lurking beneath the surface.
It's like there's two sides to the same coin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a great analogy.
Thanks.
And I think it highlights the importance of critical thinking.
Yes.
And questioning our assumptions.
For sure.
Just because something is presented as harmless or entertaining doesn't mean it can't also be unsettling or even dangerous.
Exactly.
So after diving deep into these creepy clown encounters, what's your final takeaway? What's the one thing you hope our listeners will remember?
I think the most important takeaway is the importance of trusting your instincts.
Okay.
If you encounter a clown or anyone else who makes you feel uncomfortable, Just remove yourself from the situation.
Right.
Don't dismiss those feelings of unease as silly or irrational.
Right.
Your gut feeling is often a really powerful indicator of potential danger.
It's like that old saying, better safe than sorry.
Exactly. And remember, even though these stories are unsettling,
Yeah.
they're ultimately about empowerment. They remind us that we have the power to choose how we respond to fear and uncertainty. We can let those fears control us, or we can use them as an opportunity to become more aware, more cautious, and more resilient.
That's a really empowering message.
I think so.
So next time you see a clown at a carnival,
Right.
a birthday party,
Right.
or even just walking down the street, take a moment to consider
Yeah.
what's really going on behind that painted smile.
What is going on?
Trust your gut.
Trust your gut.
Yeah,
If something feels off, it probably is.
it probably is.
Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive into the world of creepy clowns.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, thanks for joining me, and as always, sweet dreams.